Good morning. I'm Dr. Petra, and welcome to the Science of Mind class this morning. We are going through one of Reverend Karen's favorite chapters, mental equivalence. And I love this whole section of the Science of Mind. This whole center section is all about application. How do we do this? How do we live our lives out of this spiritual understanding of the nature of reality, of spirit, and of ourselves and how it works? So mental equivalence is a powerful opportunity for us to think about developing consciousness. And if you are participating in our Step Out in Faith program, then you know this week is all about becoming conscious. And we're going to be talking about that in our Sunday celebration a little bit later.
Live our lives.
And so this is an opportunity for us to get to explore it a little deeper. So we're on in the section called See Life Expressed. See Life Expressed. And we concluded last week with the idea that there's kind of three ways that we can get a hold of the idea of a mental equivalent. The first one has to do with size, right? How big can I imagine? How much good can I experience? And we use the example of people searching for a job and everybody getting the salary that was the size of the mental equivalent they had. The second has to do with qualities of life, qualities that we want to experience and express. And so the example in the book is about like a home and thinking about the qualities of, let's say, entertaining or space for children or a refuge from the busyness of daily life, right? So there's qualities that we can really embody that help us manifest and attract the life, the kind of life and the experience. And then this third one, Life Expressed, really has to do with developing a consciousness around, well, quite frankly, just a life that works, a life that is full and rich and meaningful, and it's fundamentally it's fundamentally based on our understanding about what's going on anyway, and who we are and how we fit into the nature of reality. So we concluded last week with this idea: free yourself forever from the thought that God may be pleased by a life of sacrifice, that the world is any better because of your misery, or that righteousness is more perfectly expressed through poverty than abundance. And we might add that you're here to learn lessons and work through stuff. No, actually, in the Science of Mind, we deeply understand that each one of us is here to express life, to express our life, the life as us, in as full, as completely as we can imagine it. So at this point, when we get to our mental equivalent, it really has everything to do with how we imagine our life. How do we imagine it looking and feeling? And we want to, of course, tease it apart from the media-induced ideas or the things that we see in whatever the contemporary films are of the day, right? I grew up on Disney, so the first, sort of mental equivalent was I would get married and, be swept off my feet by night in shining armor. And then I grew up on musicals, and I would say that's not too far from how I believe life actually works, but it does have a kind of it's always a happy ending, and there's always, everything always works out. And then as time goes on and our film industry has changed, right? Our films have gotten grittier and grittier and grittier, more real life. And even to the point where so many of our films in the last 10 years really are dystopian and evidence the constriction and the fear that people are experiencing about the future. And so even all of those, right, the way the media portrays it, not just in advertising, but in all of that, we begin to take those kinds of ideas on. And then, of course, we have from our family and what we grew up with and what we see in others, and then our opinions about that. All of that creates this, well, basically what we can imagine about our life. And, and we can begin to pay attention to the times that we say, well, yeah, I just can't imagine that. Whether we say it out loud or whether we just think it, I just can't imagine that. Yeah, I just don't see how that would work out. I just don't, never really seen myself as XYZ, right? Whatever, and we begin to notice if we pay attention to those things, right? We're delineating the mental equivalent. We're delineating the edges of the mental equivalent. And so there's so many ways in which we hear and we are reminded that it's all about how we perceive and speak about these things, right? We want to start seeing where the edges of our mental equivalent are and which edges we want to expand, which are actually restrictions, and which we're quite comfortable with. So as we expand our mental equivalent, this is not about just acquiring more stuff. It's not just about getting richer, although we can do all of those things. It's about a fulfilling life and a sustainably fulfilling life, right? And that includes things like making sure that when we're working really hard on building a new business, expanding the business that we have, serving consciousness, through causes that are really important to us, raising our children, whatever all of that is, that it's sustainable, which means that there's downtime and there's time for us, for ourselves, right? Right there is one of the edges of my mental equivalent, is how much time I can actually take for myself when I feel so called and motivated and actually filled up by the things I love to do. Including being here with you on a Sunday morning and being around CSLDallas and teaching classes and all of the things that I do in ministry feeds me. And sometimes I notice there's an edge. Well, I just can't quite imagine that. It took me years to imagine that I could actually go on sabbatical, that I could be gone for 3 months. And that would be okay. And nobody would say, oh, you're fired. Why did you go for 3 months? Right? But that it would be feeding and fulfilling to me. And I would come back refreshed. It took me years to build the mental equivalent, right, that included being able to go on sabbatical. Do you see? Life expressed. And that it's sustainable. So this is on the top of page 289. The beginning of the first full paragraph. In our treatment, in our spiritual work, we conceive of the ultimate of the idea, but never the process. It's never about, well, how is it going to happen? How is it going to work out for me to go on sabbatical? How is it going to work out for me to make sure that I take time for myself, or whatever the edge of our mental equivalent is? How am I going to be a little more financially free so that I can give more money to the causes that matter to me? How, right, do you see? Or how do I fit a relationship into my life, or going back to school? It's never about the process. Never treat the process. It's never about the how. That's the law's job. Our job is to imagine the possibilities and to begin to, well, I guess the word is embody. Create the space, the mental acceptance, and the embodiment of the end result. Not of how we're going to get there. Not of, oh, I got to do this, and well, maybe that'll happen, and oh, I think I might have to do that, and I'm really not sure what to do next. Right? That's the law's job. The ultimate of effect is already potential in its cause. right? Thomas Troward says if the end is secured in mind, then the means to the end are already secured. That's where our faith and trust comes in. Our faith and trust comes in the how, the following our nose as things unwind towards that end result. But our job is the end result. So the kind of life that we want to live, in a life that feels fulfilling and meaningful, that we're contributing in the ways that are important to us, that we're getting to enjoy and savor the things that we really like, that we have healthy relationships, a healthy body, that we're living in a healthy environment. And that we're really imagining and seeing all of society and our planet healthy, and everybody getting to live life as fully expressed as possible, right? And anytime we say, well, I can't imagine how that's going to happen, that's the restriction, that's the edge of our mental equivalent. So in this paragraph, our word for this fullest expression of our life, sorry, I don't think I've had enough coffee yet this morning. Let me start again. Our word for the fullest expression of our life, or for its smallest detail, should be the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end of the thing thought of. That's it. The beginning where we are and the end, the Alpha and the Omega. All the middle section, right? That's the law's job, and that's our treat and move your feet, right? We follow the prompts, we look at see what doors are opening, see what intuition we have, see how it's moving, and then when it doesn't work out, and then it's not like, oh, I can't have it. It's just, oh, that's not the direction. That's not, okay, let's try different. Let's move, let's see, or we get to also see, oh, I still have an edge there to my mental equivalent. Can't quite imagine getting to the other side of that. And all of that is grist for our spiritual mill, grist for the opportunity for us to really think about. So, to really think for yourself, what about my life, what would really allow me to fully express who I am? Not just, oh, I'm a radiant, spiritual, magnificent being of love and light, which is of course true, but who I've come here to be, and my particular joys and unique talents, right? So in the last year, part of what's allowed me to express my life more fully has been to be able to spend so much time with my granddaughter. That has been such a joy and such a way of fully expressing my life, which I've had tucked in the back of my brain now for quite a while. And I would say to my son, okay, let me just tell you, I can't wait to be a grandmother, but I'm perfectly happy for you to have a child when you're ready. And I just had to hang with that, right? I was ready for a granddaughter or a grandson, but I knew he wasn't. And when that happened, it was like, oh my gosh. And I actually worked to imagine that would fit into my life, that there would be a way that would all work out beautifully, because that fulfills me. That's a part of life that I find very fulfilling. I love working with babies and small children. Well, I love teenagers too, because they're so amazing. I like adults too. I love being in classes with adults. So, did I leave anybody out? I don't think so. I like the whole gamut, right? And I love being involved at all the different levels. And so my granddaughter is allowing me to express a part of my life that I've been imagining would be possible, and truly grateful. So here's the next piece, right? We use the word imagine, like imagine this larger mental equivalent. Or let's not use the technical phrase. Let's just imagine our life more fully expressed. So maybe we want to travel a little more. Maybe we do, in fact, want to start our own business. Maybe we really want to see ourselves experiencing a deeper spiritual, mystical experience of life on a regular basis, right? And so we begin kind of imagining the end result. I am now experiencing that deeper reality. So I love spending the time to do those things, right? We're at the end result. Oh, wow, I can see my business really serving and fulfilling and doing what it needs to be doing. Excuse me. And we use the word imagine. Now, for many of us, we grew up with the idea that imagining was like daydreaming. You know, you just kind of fantasize about it. So we might start with daydream and fantasy. It's an okay place to start. And then we begin to really imagine it. And in the imagining, it's not imagining it out there. Well, the imagining is what takes it from out there, daydreaming, fantasy. Well, wouldn't it be nice? Oh, that would be really cool. And of course, in the back of our mind, we hear, well, that's never going to happen. I don't know how that's going to happen, right? As we begin to imagine the reality of it, do you see we're actually taking it in? We're bringing it in closer and closer and closer, and we begin to embody it. So now we're imagining the reality of it. We're really trying to own it, to embody it, to experience it inside, not out there as something we're fantasizing about, but in here as something like, wow, I can really imagine that. Wow, I like the way that feels, even though it's not out here yet in physical form. The beginning of this next paragraph, never let anything cause you to doubt your ability to demonstrate the truth. Conceive of your word as being the thing. See the desire as already accomplished, as an already accomplished fact, and rest in perfect confidence, peace, and certainty. Never looking for results, never wondering, never becoming anxious, never becoming hurried or worried. Ooh, man. Woo! That's a big, tall order, isn't it? Conceive of your word, and again, we're using word in a very large context here. This embodied realization, experience, whether we speak it, feel it, sense it, can see it. Conceive of your word as being the thing. See the desired as an already accomplished fact, right? The end result. And rest in perfect confidence, peace, and certainty. Never looking for results, right? Because we start looking for evidence, and when the evidence isn't there yet, we're like, oh, is it working? I didn't do it right. Oh, this is never going to work, right? Then we use the fact that it hasn't yet manifested as evidence that it's not going to. So we need to stop not looking for results, never wondering, never becoming anxious, never becoming hurried or worried. And it's not that we make ourselves wrong for feeling hurried or worried or anxious. And it's not that we push those feelings away. It's that we so deeply work with the embodiment of our mental equivalent that it becomes a true mental equivalent when we own it on the inside. And then becoming anxious, hurried, or worried doesn't even cross our mind, because we're utterly convinced that it is working itself out for that good. We don't question it. That's the constant reminder, the renewal of our mental equivalent, the spiritual practice that we do to keep reminding ourselves it's not just, this is not a pie in the sky thing. I'm using the universal laws. I'm understanding who I am. All of that is reminding ourselves that there's no need to be anxious, hurried, worried. There's no need to push. There's no need to wonder if it's ever going to happen. And that's what allows us also to stay very confident, especially when the mental equivalent is something very different than what we currently have, or something that just takes time to grow, like a new business, or getting a degree, or raising a child, or deciding to move to another country. These are not things that just happen overnight. They can happen easily and quickly. They can unfold beautifully, but there's process in all of that. And our mental equivalent allows us to walk the process with confidence, with peace, and with certainty. So this is what our mental equivalent, and last thing I want to say is, as we make that shift from anxious, hurried, and worried to peace and certainty and confidence, that's what tells us that our mental equivalent has anchored itself in. It's moved from daydream and fantasy to imagination to embodiment to reality in our consciousness. And when it's moved into reality in our consciousness, then our certainty can face anything along the way. And that's when we know our mental equivalent really has anchored itself in. It has become a seed in universal subjective mind, and it's busily doing what it needs to be doing. All right, so we're going to stop there. And let's just see what thoughts and comments you have, stories about this, places where you do find yourself maybe anxious or worried or uncertain, and let's talk about it. So I'm going to turn to Ryan and say good morning and see what's going on out there.
Well, good morning to you too, Petra, and good morning to all the fellow practitioners out there watching us on Zoom and also live here on Facebook. So now is the time for the interactive portion of our discussion. So exciting. Ta-ta-ta. And there's a couple ways you can do that. We want to hear from you. We want to have you engage with our conversation here. And so if you're watching us live in Zoom, you can hit the raise your hand icon located down below. Or you can also put your questions inside the Q&A or comments. And if you're watching us on Facebook Live, feel free to put your questions and comments in the comment section on the live stream, and we can bring those into the room. And as always, I'd like to mention I keep the chats anonymous, so that way you can feel confident in asking your question. No question is too silly, dumb, or whatever you have in your mind about it.
Right.
We'd love to hear from you. So as folks are getting themselves prepared, asking questions, I just want to address some that have already come in. And the first one asks, what is the most skillful way to deal with the mental pushback, meaning that little voice that says, that's not possible, or I don't know how that will happen? That seems to automatically pop up.
Yep. Yep. It's the yeah, but. Yeah, but. Yeah, but you don't know how it's been. Yeah, but you don't, I don't know because I can get the loan. Yeah, but I don't know how to do it. Yeah, but. Right? And so what we do is we celebrate that little voice. We celebrate that little voice, and we celebrate every yeah, but, and every I don't know, and every uncertainty, because it's showing us where our spiritual work is. It's showing us precisely where our false beliefs are. It's showing us where our limitation is. And so what we get to do is we get to take each one of those and we get to examine how it's a false belief. We get to examine it in the light of our spiritual understanding. Well, I don't see that's possible. I don't see how that's possible. Okay, well, wait. What do I believe about the nature of the reality? What do I believe about spirit? Don't I sing on Sunday mornings, all things are possible? Do I believe that the universe, it's possible for it to create anything? So why am I now limiting that? If I'm the universe made manifest, well, of course things are possible. Anything's possible. Do you see? We're actually spiritually coaching ourselves, reminding ourselves of spiritual truth. And this is what undermines false beliefs, straight neuroplasticity, right? We're undermining the false belief, and we're giving juice to the things we say we believe. And we don't want those things we say we believe to be just nice ideas. We want to keep working with them and showing ourselves, well, of course it's possible. Well, I don't know how to do it. Well, but the universe is the ultimate intelligence that knows how to do everything. Oh my God, it can make black holes and galaxies and babies and bumblebees that shouldn't fly. Really? It knows how to do all of that, right? That's the infinite intelligence of the cosmos itself. Surely it knows how to unfold my little thing compared to the universe. Right? So, and that's not out there, that's here. the infinite reality is expressing itself as me. So there is something within me that also knows. So what the part of me that knows and the law that knows, well, clearly there's something that knows. And maybe I just need to get my littleness out of the way. Maybe I just need to get my need to figure it out or have the plan all ahead of time. Maybe that's the part I have to let go of. Because I want proof, I want evidence, I want certainty. Well, my certainty has to be in the spiritual, in the way that the nature of reality works, not in the fact that I, in my limited human brain, have figured out the steps. Do you see? But to move the certainty from that to the certainty of that we understand universal principles, universal subjective mind, the way mental equivalents work, and we use it in our lives. So great question. All right, Ryan, I'm turning back to you.
And I just want to let you know, I think me and the audience are coming up with a song called The Yeah But. It's a dance craze. And I think you just added the next line to our chorus, get my littleness out the way. Get my littleness out the way. Yeah,
oh,
but,
I love it.
Yeah, but get my littleness out the way.
Okay,
yeah, anyway.
Okay, coming soon.
That's why you guys need to stay tuned to our Sunday celebration, because we might be throwing out some dance hits that you're not aware of.
I'm all over it. Let's go.
So I want to call Shauna into the room. Shauna, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good morning, Shauna.
Good morning, Dr. Petra. So this conversation really resonates with me. So there's one place in my life that I've been planting a seed for literally 10 years. And particularly in the last 4 to 5 years, I've really been listening to the divine guidance and the whispers and following what I believed was whispered to me and guided to me, and making the changes, and opening my life, and really honoring that seed, and really releasing the do. I'm very competent at doing, and so I think for people that are very competent at making a plan and taking action, right? Sometimes this process is a challenge for us because surrendering is such a big exercise, and just surrendering and listening to divine guidance and following the cookies on the ground instead of making things happen. It's a big exercise to unwind us from that capability.
Go ahead, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, so there's and my birthday is in April. And this happens. This happens almost every year. I guess I should just anticipate and prepare it. But around my birthday, and this year it was a little later because I was with my daughter and granddaughters in April. So it happened when I got back home in May. I had this meltdown because one more year has passed and my seed hasn't blossomed. And it's funny because the reaction I find in myself is, I don't want to say shame, but certainly embarrassment that I'm so inadequate at planting this seed, right? And where I go with this, because of the teachings that I hear, is that somehow my seed isn't good enough, or my belief isn't strong enough, or I'm not following the divine guidance enough, and it's just a really dark night of the soul, or dark days of the and I feel so much, in that moment when you're waiting on a seed to blossom for so long. Sometimes the teachings can feel like like I'm not doing the mental equivalence well enough, right? And so you don't even want to tell anybody how you're really feeling, because you know there is it's not shame, that's not the right word, but there's this sense of terrible inadequacy. You know, I've been believing for 11 years, and maybe I'm doing something wrong, right?
Right.
Maybe I'm not doing mental equivalence well enough. Maybe I don't believe enough.
Right.
And yet I just know that you know it's my humanness that
Right.
longs for much, right?
Right.
And so luckily I did cave in and share it with a dear friend, 2 dear friends. And then luckily Sherry, my practitioner, was scheduled that Thursday, and I knew all along I was going to share it with her. But you know, in that moment, that I guess we do have those moments where it's sort of the dark day or dark night of
Sure.
the soul.
Absolutely.
And I guess I just want to say, I think it's okay. It's okay to, in that moment, to just, I'm past it now. So now I guess I just have to love myself through those, because I do so deeply long for this seed that sometimes the longing, and you know.
Yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely.
you take it. I'm just
Well, sure. No. And I think, I think you're pointing to something really important, Shauna, and that is the fact that it's never about if we're not doing it right. It's never about that. And yet it's that is our human self. And our human self wants it now, and we get impatient, and I've been doing this for a long time. Come on, where is it? Where is it? And yeah, we have to be okay with ourselves in that moment. And I think that you're exactly right. And it's important to be able to speak our feelings. We don't ever say in the science of mind that we deny that we feel our unhappiness or our anxiousness or our disappointment or our sadness, right? And it's important to share that. That's why we have really close people who are walking the spiritual path with us. That's why we have practitioners, that we can say to that person, I'm so disappointed, right? And that person can sit with us in the experience. What we don't want is for them to jump in the hole with us. And for them to be able to just absolutely let it be okay that we're having a dark night of the soul. And these are, there's no spiritual path that doesn't include dark nights of the soul. And there's no individual spiritual path that doesn't include those moments. Because there is something being carved out in those moments. And there is something very real about our experience in those moments. And so thank you for sharing that, Shauna. It's really important. And so this is why here at CSLDallas, the way that we teach and practice the science of mind, you will never hear anybody say, well, why did you create that? Or what's wrong with your consciousness? How come you can't get it together to build that or have that? Because it's ridiculous. We don't know what any one of us are going through. And some things take time. Some things do, in fact, take time. And so it's not about whether we're doing it right. It's always about an opportunity for grist for the spiritual mill. There's always a deeper place being carved out within us. And sometimes that deeper place is just our ability to say, yeah, and my humanness is still disappointed, and my humanness still wants it, and there's like, where is it? So in those moments, here's a couple things, Shauna, just from your sharing, that I would say just to everybody. There were a couple of things that I heard that I would say just for all of us. The first is, when we are planners and doers, we're very competent in stage 2 consciousness, which is I can do it, I can manifest it, I can make it happen, I can do it, I can make a plan, and I can trust that it's going to work out. We're very good at that. Then we do the more difficult slide into surrender. And you spoke about that beautifully, Shauna. We do that difficult slide into surrender where we're listening to the nudges and we're listening to the guidance and we're following the breadcrumbs and we know there's something guiding us and we're paying attention to all of that. And we're deeply in the third stage of consciousness development. What I often hear in that is that people abandon their ability to plan, as if there's something wrong with that. The fourth stage of consciousness is when stages 2 and 3 are married together. And we are as willing to listen as we are to plan. And we recognize that those two things are both the way in which we speak the word. When we recognize that my plan is the universe as me, planning and then listening, directing and then receiving. And we are in that dance. So we don't want to abandon our ability to plan, our ability to make plans and do things. What we want to do is we want to reincorporate that in a whole new way, which is our ability to plan is matched by our ability to listen. And these two things are happening and operating simultaneously in a dance. And we can make ourselves wrong by thinking, well, I'm a doer, I'm a planner, I have to let go of all of that. It may be time to actually bring that back in again in a whole new way. So that was the first thing I heard. And I see lots of people after they've moved into that third stage of consciousness development, actually stay there too long and never move into that fully integrated fourth stage. So something to play with. Not that we're doing anything wrong. It is a developmental process, right? And we continue to learn and grow and develop our expanded abilities to understand and to play with all of this. That's the first thing. The second thing I heard, and I also, and again, Shauna, this is for you, but it's also for everybody, right? Because we're all in this place. And that is the longing for something. The hardest thing to realize is that when I long for something, there is that within me that believes I don't have it. And it is the belief that I don't have it that is being reflected back to us. Longing and wanting keep things away. So how do we shift that acceptance, that deep acceptance into having? That's the mental equivalent. The seed has been planted, but the mental equivalent is imagining having it, being that, living in that, continually having that. And yes, our humanness can get impatient, and our humanness can be like, I've been doing this having work now for quite a while, and it's not here yet, right? And we get to have those moments, and we have people that we go, it's not. And then we pick ourselves back up, right? Very human moments, totally okay, absolutely nothing wrong with it. We're not doing anything wrong. We have to have those moments, and then we go back to really doing work around having. And it's funny, I just feel like I've been quoting this teaching out of the Bible, what Jesus is supposed to have said. I've been quoting this quite a bit recently, and it's probably one of the most difficult statements of the New Testament, of things that Jesus is supposed to have said. And I can only quote it in the King James with all the old English, so you have to translate it. But the quote is, "Him who hath, more shall be given, and even him who hath not, even that which he has will be taken away." This is a direct statement in consciousness. If I believe I have the good that I desire, then more shall be given, because the law is going, oh, you're right, you have it. Oh, you have it, and starts and continues to produce it. That one who doesn't have means in consciousness, well, I don't have enough money. Well, gosh, I just don't have a relationship. Well, I just can't get my business. I just don't have a place to do my art. I just want it so badly. And even that which we have is taken away. Because what are we saying to the law? Well, I don't have it. I don't have it. I don't have it. I don't have it. And again, it's completely fine to have those human moments. It's completely fine. And we want to have a compassionate listener who can say, oh man, I totally get it. Along the path of anything that any one of us has tried to manifest, or a whole life shift that we've wanted to experience, I promise you, every one of us has had those moments along the way. And we have to make that okay. We're not automatons. We're not perfect. It's not a long, steady uphill climb into whatever it is we're trying to manifest. It's okay to have those. And we have really trusted people who can compassionately hold us while we cry, who can let us stomp our feet and bang on the table and not jump in the hole with us, but really say, yeah, it's okay to have that moment. And hold us and help fluff us up until we're kind of ready to launch into the next push towards wherever it is we're going. And so that a mental equivalent is about having, and it's not necessarily imagining it in pictures. It's not necessarily visualizing, although it might be. For me, it doesn't come in pictures, and it doesn't come in words. For me, it comes in a sense, an inner sense. I am a person who has X. My biggest experience with this is I'm a person who has healthy relationships, who has a healthy relationship. I worked and worked and worked and worked and worked on the inside while I was in a relationship that had a lot of challenges, many of them of my own making, playing out all my old patterns, all that stuff, right? And lots of tears and lots of frustration and lots of anger and lots of, right? Becoming on the inside a person who has a healthy relationship, which also meant I had to be a person who could be healthy in a relationship, which I had no idea what that looked like, right? And so it wasn't a visualization and it wasn't words. It was my own inner sense of having that, being that. And and the bigger the goal, or the bigger the manifestation, or the more important the manifestation is to us. I don't want to plant the seed or affirm it, but yeah, the more likely we are to have, those moments of those dark nights of the soul. Why is it not here yet? Or, well, I thought that was it, but then that person left. Or I thought that job was it, but no, it's not. Or I thought it was going to work out this way, but it hasn't, right? And we have those moments of deep disappointment because it's still cooking. We're still in process. Something is still unfolding. And I think I love that you spoke that out, Shauna. I think that we have to recognize that that's a part of the journey. That's a part of the journey. And, and for me, I equate everything to hiking because I learned so much hiking. There are times when, you're just, your tongue's on the ground and you've run out of water and you think you're never going to make it to the end and you just keep plodding through. Or you sit, right? You sit and you try to, I've had hikes where I've cried. I've had hikes where I've had blisters. I've had hikes where my pack was so ridiculously too full and all of that. And it's part of the process. Right? And every one of the moments makes us stronger, fuller, richer, more capable, and you get to sit by the side of the road and cry for a minute. You really do. You really do. Which is why we hike with people that we trust, right? So I'm glad that we all have those people that we can speak with in the moments of the dark nights of our soul. All right, so lots of good stuff to think about. Do take advantage of our practitioners. They are here for you in those moments each and every time. All right, we're going to continue on with our conversation next week, and we'll be in our Sunday celebration in about a half an hour talking about becoming conscious. So we'll look forward to seeing you then. Bye for now.